How to get a grade 9 in AQA English Language, Paper 1, Question 5. So we're looking at the November 2020 paper, and this is the question. Last time we looked at starting with the technique of in media res. This time we're going to look at setting. The question is either write a description of a mysterious place as suggested by this picture, or write a story about an event that cannot be explained. So, why start with setting? Sometimes the most powerful opening isn't action, it's place. And examiners love it when candidates can turn setting into a character. Atmosphere can grip the examiner or the reader from the very first line. So, thinking about how you can create setting is something that's quite important, and that's what we're going to do today. What does it do? Well, it can create a mood, whether it's calm, eerie, hopeful, or threatening. With this picture, obviously, you'd want to probably create an eerie mood. It gives the reader a strong sense of place, and you can also use it to hint at what might come next. So, how would you describe the same gate to make it feel welcoming, and how would you change the description to make it threatening? So those are some questions you might want to think about, because in fact, the picture is only meant to be a jumping off point. You don't have to use the picture absolutely literally. If the gate gives you ideas for a story, piece of creative writing, as long as it's in some way linked to the picture, that's absolutely fine. And the examiners have made that clear. Okay. Let's look at some weak versus strong setting. So here we've got there was a gate in front of her. It was old and big. It's fairly basic, isn't it? The first one, it's flat, it's list-like, it's not creating atmosphere. So the second one, the gate bristled with rust, as though resenting every hand that touched it. Now that obviously is so much better. It's using personification, and that personification is creating atmosphere. You know, there's a sense of almost hostility, isn't it? As if the gate is a person that's resenting any sort of hand, any intrusion. Pause the video and have a go at this task. Rewrite "it was an old gate" and either make it eerie or magical. Or you could make it something else, whatever. Use at least one adjective and try to use some personification, as is shown in this example, writing about the gate as if it were a person. So pause the video and come back when you're ready. Okay, here's some examples. Personification: the gate shivered in the wind. Metaphor: the path was a scar across the field. And here's some example of sensory detail: the smell of rust, the chill of iron, the silence pressing in. All of this helps create atmosphere. It helps the reader to really immerse themselves in the situation. The air reeked of rust. The iron gate bit cold against her palm, and the silence pressed in so tightly it felt like the garden itself was holding its breath. So that creates atmosphere, doesn't it? It's atmospheric. There's a sense of uneasiness, you know, the cold, the silence, the sense of anticipation. The garden itself is holding its breath. And that's the sort of thing you want to practice, because these are higher level techniques. And even if you can only do that once in a piece of writing, it will be enough to push you into that top level. So which sense is most powerful in creating atmosphere? Now, this is personal choice, whether it's sight, sound, or touch. So I would experiment with using all of them and see which one you're most comfortable with. Tip: try adding smell or sound to transform a flat description. What you also need to do is try and link the setting to the story. So a good setting opening doesn't just describe, it also sort of hints at what will follow. So if you remember when we looked at the story about Rosie having just moved to the new house and looking out at the garden, we got that description when we were looking at question 2, the language, about the garden. And that was atmospheric, that description. And it also prepared us for something that was uncanny, the appearance and the disappearance of the girl. Now, that's the sort of thing that you need to do in your writing as well, linking the setting to the story. So here we've got an example. The gate leaned open as though inviting her in, though the shadows beyond whispered otherwise. So what does this make the reader expect? We've got a sort of conflict there, haven't we? There's a bit of contrast. The gate leaned open as though inviting her in, though the shadows beyond whispered otherwise. There's a sense of something slightly unsettling. It's as if something is waiting, or something. There's something unusual or perhaps dangerous that's going to happen. So this is foreshadowing through setting. It's hinting at something that's about to come. And this is a way to really grab your reader, to create unanswered questions. This is an example of using foreshadowing in setting. It's a higher level technique, which I really encourage you to use, because it really does work and examiners do like it. So have a go at that. And also think about how you can create different moods with the same picture. In your creative writing, the examiners are quite clear that as long as your creative writing has been inspired by the picture, they're not prescriptive. The examiners are not going to be prescriptive about it, that it's got to be really, really closely based on the picture. As long as it's inspired by the picture, that's absolutely fine. So you could go for an eerie mood, a hopeful mood, or a mysterious mood. So an eerie mood: the gate shivered in the wind, its bars rattling like teeth. Or hopeful: the gate yawned open, its hinges sighing as though relieved to be free. Mysterious: the gate leaned wearily into its stone pillars, yet stood ajar as though waiting for someone. So you can see each of those three examples are using personification, and personification is a really helpful tool to have in your literary toolkit, if you like. It's very helpful in creating atmosphere. So practice using personification, because I think in whatever piece of writing you're doing, it will be useful. So here we've got the same picture, same gate, but they're completely different atmospheres are being created. Okay, have a go at this yourself. Flip the mood. So write 2 sentences about the gate. The first one, try and make it feel sinister, almost evil. And the second one, make it feel hopeful or magical. Think about using perhaps the technique of personification in that description. So pause the video, jot them down, and then compare. And think about, how do just a few words shift the whole atmosphere? Okay, let's have a look at this grade 9 model opening. Think, while we're reading it, have a think about, what is this candidate doing that's good? What words or phrases or techniques are you going to use in your writing? How are you going to be inspired by this? The gate bristled with rust, each spike jutting upwards like the broken teeth of a trap. Flakes of iron curled beneath her fingertips, leaving a bitter tang in the air. The hinges groaned as though in protest, a sound swallowed quickly by the silence pressing in from the garden beyond. A path curved away into shadow, its edges lost beneath choking weeds that seemed intent on dragging the light down with them. Damp earth clung to the air, heavy with the smell of rot and rain. For a moment she thought the garden itself was holding its breath, waiting. Nothing stirred, yet the stillness pulsed with a warning, as if the place were alive and resentful of her presence. So this is a really accomplished piece of writing, isn't it? We've got lots of sensual detail. We've got the visual image created by this simile, like the broken teeth of a trap with the spikes. We've got, the bitter tang in the air, there's the scent of the rust. We've got the sound of the hinges groaning. And it's very atmospheric, it's very visual, and there's the smell of the rot and the rain. And we've also got a little bit about her feelings about the place. So altogether, a really, really good piece of writing. Let's have a look at what how the assessment criteria would judge it. One of the things that the examiners look for is ambitious vocabulary. It is ambitious, it is well-chosen words, resentful, swallowed, pulsed with warning. I would say do think carefully about developing your vocabulary, because you do get double credit for it. Your piece of creative writing is marked twice by the examiners under 2 different mark schemes. One for content and organisation, where you get a mark out of 24, and once for technical accuracy, where you get a mark out of 16. And vocabulary appears in both mark schemes, so you get double credit for that. So thinking about your words and choosing your words carefully. Don't just stick in sophisticated words that you don't really know the meaning of. You've got to use them accurately, but it is worth doing if you want to start hitting those higher bands. There are crafted devices in there. There's metaphor, personification, sensory layering. Again, for your own writing, think about this question as a chance to show the examiner what you're capable of. It's really got to be crafted. It's better to write less and to really have a crafted piece of writing where you've used literary devices effectively. There's structural shaping. It builds from the physical detail, the sound, the sensory layering, and then at the end we get this sense of foreboding, don't we? Which creates this slightly uneasy atmosphere. And then there's technical control. There's varied punctuation, and there's flowing complex sentences. I always say leave 3 to 5 minutes at the end to go back over your writing, because you don't want to make careless mistakes. You want it to be as accurate as possible. And you do want to try and build in some sophisticated punctuation. Learn how to use the dash effectively, semicolon, colon. Examiners will notice it, and you will get credit for it. So key takeaways: setting isn't background, it's a hook. So think about how you can use setting as a hook by creating mood, hinting at a story, gripping the reader. Tools to use: personification, metaphor, sensory detail, and foreshadowing. All of those we've talked about, so keep practicing those. So for next lesson, we're going to look at character and reflection as a way of starting the story. We've looked at in media res. That was a few days ago. We've looked at using setting. This next lesson will be character and reflection. If you want more tips, download my free Paper 1 Top Tips Guide. The link is in the description. And do subscribe to my channel, because I will be posting 2 or 3 times a week with really helpful videos. Okay, see you next time.